Bună dimineața și bun găsit la BU! Sunt Sabina Iosub și vă invit să rămâneți alături de mine în următoarea jumătate de oră, căci o să discutăm chestiuni legate de mediu și o să vedeți câte lucruri importante se întâmplă aici la nivel european. We are in Strasbourg and today here with me in the European Parliament is the Commissioner for Environment, Virginijus Sinkevicius. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you for having me.
We are discussing now about a huge legislation that will impact our lives. We are talking about nature restoration. Let's explain what is in there in the legislation now.
So, first of all, the legislation itself is aimed at not only, sticking to the old legislation which was purely focused on nature protection, where you basically have, areas covered with the very strict use rules, but really open up for something new, which would allow for nature to be restored. We want, on contrary, to find a way of combining economic activities with nature restoration efforts. So, as we assess, for example, that 70% of EU soils are not in good status. It's different, not everything is degraded, but still it's slowly going worse. So we need to find a way of how to ensure that the soils are not further degrading, but on contrary, they are back to a healthy soils, because that's first of all the income of our farmers, that's the income of our foresters. If you look at the marine areas, that's the income of our fishers. So we need to find a ways of balancing out and finding the way of ensuring that economic activities can continue, but also they are done in the way that they do not push the planetary boundaries. Therefore, Commission has put forward nature restoration legislation already a year ago, and since then there has been a very dramatic, I would say, discussions in the Parliament. Now the Council is finalizing them, and there might be a vote on Council General approach on 20th of June. For the council positions, and then we would have parliaments voting as well. That would lead us into trialogue, where I'm sure we can look at all positions and try to bridge them in the landing zone. That's the very normal decision making in the European Union, where Commission comes with the proposal, Council comes with their position, each member state have their own positions, which, as always, usually considered what would they need to do extra, and then of course Parliament comes with their position, and we manage to land it. I hope that this time that's not going to be exception, but we'll do it, because also that has our international obligation. When we have reached a historic agreement at COP15 in Montreal, one of the leading forces of that agreement was European Union. And of course, nature restoration, which is 30% in that agreement, was also very much achieved because of the European Union backing these proposals. So I hope that we won't backtrack from our international obligations, and we will ensure that we are able to deliver them at home, and of course show example to the rest of the world, and ensure that they can also move ahead with their international obligations.
You've told us that 70% of the soil is destroyed due to us, humans?
Due to different activities, industrial, agriculture, water poor management, use of chemicals, and etc. So there are many factors that are pressuring, and on top of that you have, of course, climate change, which reinforces those factors. So all that pollution, which already puts enormous pressure on the ecosystem, is even further reinforced with changing climate, with temperature change, with seasons being slightly late, and our farmers not being able to adopt on time, losing their income and so on. So it's very important to see, because I think the big mistake which is being done, that the sort of environmental policies or climate policies are being seen in this narrow green tunnel vision, which is absolutely wrong. You have to see the horizontal view, because if you don't solve these crises that are putting enormous pressure, they will further escalate and put pressures on our social, on our healthcare budgets, on the income of the groups, of the businesses that are directly dependent on nature.
What is going to be changed in our lives after this legislation will be voted and implemented in the member states?
I think, that's the thing that, in general, people won't notice change. You won't have to, do something differently than you being done. It's more obligations, for governments to take decisions a bit differently, So, for example, we have a goal for cities of green canopy coverage. So, ensuring that by 2030 the green canopy in cities is not declining. So you might not have these useless cuts of trees in the cities, which has been happening for the past few years. And then you see with these heat waves hitting Europe, some ridiculous showers being installed in the city centers, which for me is completely, difficult to understand. Why would you cut the tree and lose the shadow, lose the water retention that trees gives you in the city center? So that's one thing. So I think it's absolutely positive one.
Maybe we'll see some mayors planting some trees in order to maintain the equilibrium.
And then you have 2050 goal, which is 5% increase. So I hope that, of course, we would see not only mayors but citizens engaging in tree planting, and I know that people like it. I've done the tree planting in many member states. It's always a great engagement, always very much supported by so many different groups, and of course that give an opportunity to continue such activities of the greening your cities, greening your towns, ensuring that there is a clean air, ensuring that there is a water retention, ensuring that trees just give you a simple shadow.
You've mentioned that maybe the citizens won't need to change their lives, but the governments will have to adapt to the new legislation to make some changes. Will this cost us? Will this new shift need some money? And if yes, there are some European ones in the pocket, or should anyone?
Again, I think inaction will cost us much more. We saw the natural disasters, and some they like to call it a new normal. I don't like it at all. I don't think so that natural disasters that hits Europe with floods, with droughts, is a new normal. So, if you look at, for example, emergency funds for agriculture, these are the funds that are exhausted very quickly. Too quickly every year. So we need to make sure that we have resilient soils, we have resilient forests, and that will cost us way less. Our estimation is that €1 invested in nature brings at least €8 back. It brings back in many benefits, in social and healthcare budget. It brings back in the increased income of the companies, of the businesses that are directly dependent on nature. World Economic Forum estimates that 50% of the global GDP depends on nature. Of course, the sectors that are most affected is food, beverage, construction, but other sectors too. They have very close links, and with losing the ecosystems, you cannot re-establish them, and that will cost you much, much more.
Yeah, that's sure. It's an investment in the environment in general, and we have to understand this. But of course, we also need some money right now in order to make the investment. You've mentioned pollution and the situation in Europe in general. I think it's better than in some other areas in the world, but how can we make it even better?
We always tend to think about ourselves better than about the others, but it's not necessarily the case. So we still have almost 300 premature deaths per year from the air pollution. And that's that's a lot. That's, you know, even one death it's too much. So the situation is, of course, differs across Europe. First of all, it's worse in the bigger cities. Of course, mainly that pollution comes from the transport sector. Secondly, pollution stays in those geographically different regions, the mountain regions and so on, where pollution does not have so many chances of escaping. But still, pollution levels are high. We have high pollution not only of our air, but of our water bodies, way too high that we could call, you know, it acceptable levels of pollution. This is what Commission package, so-called zero pollution package, is aimed at really, you know, bringing down the pollution levels to the levels that they are not harmful to the human health. At the moment, unfortunately, we are not there. And when we speak about the funds that can be invested, for example, for, you know, improving environment or ensuring that environmental legislation is being in place, first of all, you know, it's recovery and resilient funds that can be used. We have LIFE program, we have our MFAF program, the Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, we have our Common Agricultural Policy, and etc. So there are a vast majority of funds that are available. Our scientists can also, you know, bring in significant solutions. So you can definitely use a Horizon funds, which also has, you know, extremely important parts of cities that, you know, basically, you know, focuses very much on cleaning of the cities. So funds, I wouldn't say that are an issue. The issue is the political priorities, where they are put next to those funds.
Exactly. When we are discussing about the waste management in general in the European Union, what is your analysis? What is the situation?
So Commission just issued an early warning report where we see that a number of member states, 18 actually out of 27, won't reach one of the targets. So the targets are twofold. One is the municipal waste recycling target, and another is packaging recycling target. So there are even 10 member states, Romania among them, that fails to achieve both of the targets due to different reasons. Now Commission has issued this early warning report. It's aimed at actually giving a heads up to the member states. Each member state will have its own recommendations that are very clear, you know, channeling member states to changes in their legislation, changes in their practices, what they need to achieve in order to ensure that they do not fail to reach 2025 goal. And in the longer perspective, when we talk about the landfilling, 2035 goals.
You've mentioned Romania. I know that you are in permanent contact with my country and analyzing everything over there. We know that we have some big issues regarding pollution, regarding waste management, some problems regarding the forests. What are the news coming from your side with the analysis? Have anything improved in my country?
So we're working constructively, and on forest I can say that, you know, there is definitely significant progress has been done. First of all, Sumal system, it's almost fully operational. And I know that some of the NGOs, they are not happy with it, but Commission carried out independent audit of the Sumal system, and it can say that really Sumal system is operational. The findings of that audit, this is what to what we refer. Also, Romania adopted the forest code. In that forest code, there is a very important part on increased fines and even prosecution as regards the environmental crimes and illegal logging. So that also should contribute to the implementation of the Romania's infringement procedure on the forestry. So I cannot say that there is no progress. There is definitely a progress being done, an important progress, and so we hope to continue working with Romanian authorities, and I hope that shift or changes in the government or that restructuring of the government won't backtrack Romania from the wall that has been going on. On waste, as I mentioned, at this moment situation does not look good, but there is still time. So we have put forward a recommendations which I believe that Romania would be capable of implementing. And last but not least, of course, pollution is something that Romania needs to take a better care of. There are many reasons, and I understand the social aspect, especially when we talk about the pollution coming from the cars. People cannot just, change and buy a new car over the night. So therefore, government incentives are very important. Municipalities' incentives are very important that would allow citizens to have at least a choice of clean, comfortable public transport, which could easily get them from one part of the city to another. City has to be walkable and suitable for cycling. That would at least allow citizens to consider certain choices and maybe leave some of the cars back home. It's not easy, it takes time, but we are ready to work with Romanian authorities on that.
You are working for some years now on the environment issues. What is the biggest problem, in your opinion?
It's difficult to single out one issue.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
Probably pollution would be one of the biggest issues because it puts many pressures, not only on environment but on human health as well. And it does this kind of double damage because, healthy environment can help people also, to improve their mental health and etc. But then with the pollution you have this double pressure. So you have immediate pressure on human health and you have a pressure on the environment, which then ends up with different other pressures too. So I think this would be one of the major ones, but then you have many strands going out of it, which you also need to deal with it. I think we are on the right track. We have done a lot, and the European Green Deal through this year has been our guiding light. We proved that despite the pandemic, the Green Deal was very relevant. Despite the ongoing Russia's illegal, unjustified invasion in Ukraine, we showed that Green Deal is of relevance. And I think we have to continue with this work because you cannot just leave it halfway done. That would be the worst what you possibly could do. We see the world is moving that way. Significant steps has been done from the other parts of the world. The first work that President Biden did upon coming to an office was to return to the Paris Agreement. Mm-hmm. Now with IRA being put forward as sort of making United States a hub of producing clean technologies, just show that they are also bidding on the Green Deal, on the changes that we've been bidding I would say 2-3 years earlier than them. So we are ahead of this change, but to maintain the leadership position, that will take political stamina, that will take additional understanding and explaining to the citizens of what do we want to achieve. And I think that sometimes some politicians, they do lack that, or they try to just tend to go into this kind of simplicity. But these processes, especially when it comes to Green Deal, the horizontal one that touches upon our society, upon our economy, upon the way we live, cannot be explained in very simple terms.
In the end of our discussion, I will ask you to give a message to the Romanians who are watching you and who have been watching you for so many years now. You've told us every time what is the real situation in Romania, and thank you again for this. What's your message right now? Because there are difficult times.
Absolutely, the times are not easy, but I think what's most important that we always had a solution. We had a very proud moment with the COVID, that the whole Europe came out of COVID, and I would say came out stronger when we had the vaccines delivered to each and every member state, and starting vaccination at the same time, not differing among the member states, who is bigger, who is richer, and so on. And this is true European moments. I'm sure that we will keep on this true European moment in supporting Ukraine until the very end, because if Ukraine loses, countries such as Ukraine disappears. The world order that we know now will also disappear. But most importantly, with all these crises, we never forget to take care of our citizens. We see the increasing energy prices, and Commission reacts. We see the increasing inflation, and Commission immediately reacts. We do see, we do relate to our citizens, and we will continue to do so.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Iar vouă celor de acasă vă spun să rămâneți pe Antena 3 CNN. Nu uitați că ne revedem și sâmbătă viitoare la 9:30 de minute. Cu bine și sănătoși să fim!